Hi, my dear Astro family. Today I wanted to talk to you about the upcoming, and not upcoming actually, the 2024 Mercury retrograde periods. So first of all, I would like to invite you all to a retreat in November in Mexico, and it will be all about how to bring the prediction techniques together. So we're going to be looking at progressions, solar arcs, solar return charts. We're going to be looking at some unique techniques such as, for example, zodiacal releasing, as well as progress declination charts, some very useful techniques which are not necessarily available all the time online, for example, for you. So if that's something you are interested in, then I really invite you to sign up today and then come around and spend 5 days with me and the rest of us so that you can learn the art of astrology of prediction as well. But let's get started with this 2024 Mercury retrograde period. Now, I did make some 24 videos already for you. So you might want to be checking those out as well. So I did something to do with Jupiter in Gemini, the Saturn Chiron cycle, Jupiter and Pluto trine, which is going to be happening 2nd of June 2024, the Chiron and the North Node conjunction, the Venus star point, as well as Pluto in Aquarius. So you've got loads of material available for you now to plan your 2024. And I will be preparing a couple of other videos as well for you, actually, this year, so that you don't need to book basically your personal reading if you just happy to go through some of the general themes of your life. Of course, you're always going to have to look at your own natal charts to see what planets are getting activated and so forth, but this should give you enough guideline to go about your 2024. Now, I'm going to just put a table up for you about the Mercury retrograde dates, but most of these retrogrades are going to be happening in fire signs. Now, let me just talk to you about Mercury retrograde. So I did prepare a video about the latest Mercury retrograde where I explained what Mercury retrogrades really are, because I feel like where the astrological community is going at the moment is not really good. It is said that during Mercury retrograde, we should not buy a laptop. We should not sign a contract. Basically, we need to be putting our life on hold. And then, of course, what people do is that they're going to start putting all this information onto other planets as well. So basically, you should never do anything because there is always one retrograde planet at least on the sky. I would like to be kind of like the ambassador of stopping this. I don't want to use bad words, but bullshit, you know, because Mercury retrograde and all the retrogrades are not about not doing certain type of things in our lives. We're going to have to forget about those. So Mercury retrograde is every single retrograde planet is connected to a sacred geometry. So the Mercury retrograde periods are connected to Star of David. So basically, the Mercury cycle starts when there is an inferior conjunction. So basically, an inferior conjunction is when Mercury is retrograde and then making a conjunction to the Sun. And then it will be making another conjunction when Mercury is direct, and that's what we call as a superior conjunction. So basically, these cycles are happening 116 days apart from each other. Now, every third time when Mercury goes retrograde, it picks up the threads from the previous year, approximately 11 months before. So I'm going to give you an example here. So for example, 2020, we had a uh, Mercury retrograde happening on 12 degree of Pisces. And then it went back to 28 degree of Aquarius. Now, then it means that 11 months later, wherever the planet went direct, so in this case, it was 28 degree of Aquarius, plus minus 2 to 3 degrees. But 11 months later, that's exactly where the planet is going to go retrograde. So in 2020, February 17th, 12-degree Pisces, where the retrograde motion started, it went back to 28-degree Aquarius, where it stationed direct, and that was 10th of March. 11 months later, January 30th, Mercury went retrograde on 26 degree of Aquarius. And then it went back to 11 degree of Aquarius again. So basically, this is how you're going to be having to look at these threads, always picking up something on the previous thread before, 11 months before. So this is one of the way how you can think about it. Or I'm going to give you another example here, because as I said, the Mercury geometry is going to be creating a Star of David shape. So in 2022, we had one Mercury retrograde starting on 10 degree of Aquarius, another one on 4 degree of Gemini, and then another one was on 8 degree of Libra. So basically, we had an air grand trine. But if you take into account the two conjunctions as well, which I mentioned previously, the inferior and the superior conjunctions, and then you put that on the astrological chart, basically you will see a Star of David formation. A Star of David, still used as a sacred symbol by Jews worldwide, is based on the horoscope of King David, who was said to have been born with two fortunate grand trines, which interlocked to create a six-pointed star. To intimidate his enemies and imply he was unbeatable, it was engraved on his armor. So, shall we just look at Mercury then about laptops and so forth, or am I gonna, approach this a little bit from a King David point of view? This is something you might want to be thinking about next time when you are looking at your own retrograde periods. Now, another interesting factor about Mercury retrogrades is that they always happen in the same element. So it's going to be connecting three houses the entire year for you. It's going to be activating those. So this year, as you could see on the table, I previously put on the screen with the Mercury retrogrades, two of the Mercury retrogrades. So to be precise, the one which is going to be in April, going to start on 27 degree of Aries, and it's going to finish on 15 degree of Aries. And then the one which is starting on 26th of November, going to start on 22 degree of Sagittarius, and it's going to finish on 6 degree of Sagittarius. Now, those are full fiery elements. The other two retrograde periods are actually going to start in earth signs, but they're going to end in fire signs. So the theory I showed you, for example, that the retrograde ended 2024, January 2nd on 22 degrees Sagittarius. And guess what? The retrograde begins on 26th of November, 2024. So this is how you can use this in your personal chart. What type of thread is going to get picked up again? Something maybe the details overlooked in 2024 January, which you're going to have to somehow finish in November 26 retrograde period. But let's just talk about one more interesting thing I would like to mention to you, because this is one way how you can look at the Mercury retrogrades. The other very interesting factor about Mercury retrogrades is that, as I said, they always appear in the same elements. So the last time we had fiery retrograde periods were in 2018. So you might want to be revisiting the 2018 periods, and then you want to be checking out what was going on in your life around that time. That could be another way to look at. Interesting that it happens 6 years apart, because Mercury goes a retrograde in your solar return chart also every 6 years. So can you see that Mercury retrograde is not about signing contracts and so forth? It has got some type of repetition going on. And then once you discover these repetitions, then you're gonna know what themes to pay attention to. What is basically the fire sign Mercury retrogrades about? So when we have got Mercury retrogrades in happening in fire signs, then it's about challenges. It's about embracing or awakening your competitive spirit. It's about taking risks in life, but at the same time, it's about being excited about the future as well. You are meant to be thinking about glory. You are meant to be thinking about greatness. Because if you think about fire, which is you just need an ignition, right? You just need a little bit of a spark. And then the flame is going to carry you really far. So it's very important that you're going to look at your enthusiasm levels. Also, it's very much about your belief system, believing that something positive can happen in my life. But also, it's about, because if you think about the fire symbol, which is going upwards, so it's about climbing up on the mountain. You need a bit of a patience with that, of course, but the continuous strength, having an aim, and knowing that I can get there, this is what Mercury retrograde will want you to pretty much think about. Yes, it wants you to be active. It wants you to get attention of others. It is about getting noticed for something as well. And then eventually maybe getting a reward or an award for your actions. It's kind of like a little bit of an action hero. Think about a car, for example. What does a car need to get going? We need fuel. So, what is your inner fuel? What is your inner motivation here? What makes you enthusiastic about something? What makes you passionate? And can you be optimistic about it? These are some of the major topics of 2024. Yes, of course, sometimes the fire is unstoppable, meaning that we can get obsessed with that too. The fire consumes others and the surroundings, obviously, it burns everything down. So it can also indicate that you are going with a full speed and you're going to have to slow down a little bit to be a little bit more contained as well, or to focus on concentration altogether. Also, a fire represents intuition as well. And if you think about that, Mercury is the planet of communication. But by the way, Mercury does represent something to do with the dreams as well when it comes to the ancient astrology. Then it's about listening to your intuition. Fire Mercury is being playful, being like a child. Um, Also, like approaching things like a child would. A child is never afraid of, I don't know, jumping off somewhere, unless we teach them to be afraid. So, yes, fire goes very quickly, it spreads very quickly. So, it is also telling you to look at whether you are a hustler, you are quick-minded, or you are actually just a little bit more reserved and shy, and you are slow to react on certain type of things. So this Mercury will want you to look at your reaction time to certain type of things as well. Now, a practical tip how I would do your retrograde periods, I would look at where the fire houses are in your chart. So in my case, this is going to be the second house, the sixth house, and the 10th house. Because I've got Aries on the second house cusp, 10th house cusp starts on Sagittarius, and the sixth house starts on Leo. And then you might want to think about, okay, so all the retrogrades are happening around this time or around these. So how can I bring them together? Obviously, the second house is the source of money. The 10th house is something to do with profession. And the sixth house is lifestyle and work and health. So those are certain type of topics, how they're gonna get infused for you in 2024 in a fiery way. So maybe one of the advice I would give myself is to make sure that you are actually focusing a little bit on the career as well, or how you want to appear in front of others, because the second and the sixth house pretty much about food and so forth, and the 10th house can represent diet as well. So it looks like I might be paying attention quite a lot on my diet, or I'm going to be paying attention to the work environment. Maybe I'm going to come up with some projects. Maybe I'm going to work together with others. Maybe I'm going to have to replace some of my employees, for example, and so forth. So this is how you can kind of look at certain topics in your chart, what gets activated there. Of course, how you can make it unique is that you look at where Mercury is placed in your chart, and then you try to infuse that into the picture as well. So in my case, Mercury is in the 11th house, which is the house of long-term goals, hopes and wishes, but also something to do with social media as well. So maybe I'm going to be launching something on social media in regards to food and medical matters, right? That's how I can bring together, for example, with the dietary triangle, for example. It's just an example. And on top of that, you can also look at what Mercury rules in your chart. So in my case, it rules, for example, the 7th house. So the relationship department will get connected somehow to work, money, or something to do with, let's say, gyms, for example. So maybe this Mercury retrograde will grant me the possibility to work together with another gym enthusiastic astrologer. Okay, just a silly example, but I'm just trying to demonstrate how you could look at these Mercury energies. Now, I would like to give you a little bit more of the pointers. So, one of them is that Mercury retrograde takes place in the same element in 1 year. So approximately about every 4 to 6 years, it will be in fire signs. Mercury retrograde in April starts on 27 degree of Aries. That is really close to the recent eclipse degree, what took place on 29 degree. So that Mercury retrograde, look up when the eclipse happened, what happened around that time of your life, because it's very possible that in April that Mercury will bring you some of those topics back for you, and you're going to have to think about those. So because Mercury represents the news, let's say um, there was a news about a famous actress who went to court, then it's very possible that this Mercury retrograde is going to bring that topic up for us. By the way, this solar eclipse took place in April, around the 19th or 20th of April, depending on where you are. So those topics might get somehow picked up for you in the next year as well, when Mercury goes retrograde around the same degree. But in the world, if there were some type of news around something, this could also come back, or we're gonna relive those moments. So the other thing I would like to mention, that Mercury retrograde will end in Leo on 21st degree. And that is, sorry, 21st degree of sign Leo. Now that's going to be the August retrograde period. And that's very interesting because that's very close to this Venus star point degree. Now, the Venus star point degree was on 20 degree of Leo, and this happened recently, just at the end of August or middle of August. So you might want to be comparing this period for example, with that retrograde, whatever is happening right now in your life, then it's very possible that that topic is going to have to be revisited as well as relooked at or relived somehow. Another very interesting thing is that there is going to be two of the Mercury retrograde will end in Sagittarius. Now, Sagittarius is the sign of travel, faith, optimism, education, and greed. So, unfortunately, Mercury being the planet of travel as well as passports and documents. So we can expect, for example, that the passport system is going to be changing, or maybe there is going to be some travel restrictions and so forth. So we might be expecting certain matters around that too. The April Mercury retrograde will trigger also the Chiron and the North Node conjunction quite tightly as well, because that Mercury retrograde is going to be happening on 16 degree. So it's about the rejection of the self of identity. And feeling somehow blocked of moving on with our life. That's something we might need to be considering as well in 2024. And also, I find it very beautiful, actually, that Mercury finishes its retrograde on 6 degree of Sagittarius at the end of the year. And on the 6th of December, Mars goes retrograde on 6 degree of Leo. So that is going to be making an exact trine to that Mercury. So it looks like life is going to speed up a little bit there. But I'm going to be making a video about the Mars retrograde also, because Mars is going to be the ruler of our North Node. So we're going to have to follow its path quite a lot in the entire 2024. But the fact that Mercury and Mars are going to be somehow overlapping, it kind of really talks to us about the possibility to finish off some type of nice karmic journey at the end of 2024. So, guys, this was just a little bit of an educational video giving you hints and tips about what to pay attention to so that you can look at your natal chart and you can figure out what to expect with these Mercury retrograde periods. Thank you, everyone. See you soon. Bye bye.